Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at NBA best bets here for Tuesday. Got a 7-game slate to choose from in the NBA tonight. Going to be looking at best bets with some sides and totals in this one. Also got an episode with Player Props Up, which we're bringing both of those to you each and every weekday this season. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us. Another not as good night in the best bets as the player props, remaining at 500. So not losing too much here. We're going to look to get back into the winning ways, though, and get a few of these units tonight, Nate. So let's get into your first best bet for Tuesday night here.
Yeah, it's a team prop, at least. It's the 76ers team total as they host the Mavs here. 113.5 is where it's at. I mean, if you want to take Sixers -2, that makes sense. It could be going up here with Embiid upgraded to questionable, practice yesterday, probably going to play. And I don't think either of us would agree with books, moving that based on Embiid playing. Like, the Sixers have been in a pretty nice groove without him. That being said, like, he's probably only going to help you get more raw points here against a Mavs team that's not going to have AD yet, as we know, doesn't have Lively for months, and just doesn't have, therefore, any center other than Gafford, who, for what it's worth, Embiid's averaged 45 points per game his last 4 against Daniel Gafford with the Wizards, the rest of that defense. But the Mavs defense, like, where are they at? There might still be reeling a little bit here from the blockbuster that unless they truly hated Luka as much as the return would indicate. But I mean, at least for a couple games here, they're going to be in a vulnerable spot. And before they actually made the deal, they were still struggling with a 130 defensive rating, right? Got into some pretty fast-paced games with the Pels, and then, of course, they got waxed by the Cavs. But 102 pace in the last 3, league worst defensive rating. For the last 5, they've allowed 125 a game. Only the Wizards have gone under this total. They've allowed 40% from 3 and 40 attempts from 3. And suddenly dropped to the second worst transition D and the 8th most paint points allowed, when they were like, those were their bread and butter defensively. And Lively being out has a lot to do with that. Gafford being asked to just be a full-time guy has not gone well historically. And meanwhile, the Sixers, like I said, got it rolling. 6 straight covers. Number 4 offensive rating in that span. At home, been even better, despite still playing pretty slow. They've scored 123 their last 3 against the West, despite playing very slow. And if Embiid comes back, I mean, they're going to get to the line, right? Their last 5 with Embiid, 117 a game, 30.2 free throw attempts. They're 4-1. So even though I think the Mavs might actually have an edge here in terms of, if Embiid comes back, they're able to kind of exploit him. I just want to pick off the team total for the Sixers because I don't know where the Mavs are going to be at motivation wise, but I think the Sixers are in a desperate spot continually at home, and their offense is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that he doesn't come in and mess things up too much to the point that you're making here. But either way, there has been a bit of an uptick, and big reason for that would be Kelly Oubre. I kind of hope he doesn't kind of subside here, because his ability and willingness to attack the rim is a huge part of all of this. And Dallas, yeah, I mean, Gafford out there, it would be nice if he was sort of occupied by Embiid, and then you can really have other guys have that the ability to get into the lane, which should open things up even more. And Tyrese Maxey might not have to make as many step back, threes from 32 feet, because he'll have the ability to catch and shoot. Like, everything just opens up more in general. And I would hope that, Nurse is continuing to play that transition offense that has really kept things moving for this Philly team, not letting teams get set up and really forcing the action to the rim. And I think that'll be a big part of what allows them to score tonight. But let me go over to a little negatively correlated parlay as I take LeBron James to get at least 25 plus points tonight and match that with the Clippers to win the game. So we got that at plus 135 on BetMGM. As we said, negatively correlated, LeBron getting points, but the outcome not being adverse to that. Him without AD, there's been 4 games this season. He's gone over in 3 of 4. He's averaging 32.6 points per game in those 4. The only game he went under in that situation was against the Wizards, where he played 27 minutes, scored 24 points in those 27 minutes, and that was a 38-point blowout, which is a reason he didn't, and no one really had to play at the end of that game. But if you look at him in terms of on the floor without AD, without D'Lo and Max Christie, and anybody that's not going to be out there tonight, but you put him on the floor with Jackson Hayes and Austin Reeves, he's played about 120 minutes this season with Hayes and Reeves without the other guys on the floor with them, looking at about 29.8 points per 36 in those situations. Got to pencil him in for 35, 36 in this. He's not letting up, right? He's still going moving forward here. And I don't know that there's any reason to think he won't try and carry this team to the against the Clippers in an important game where they're still alive. And obviously they have cavalry coming, as Luka and Maxi Kleba won't play in this one, but they will be available pretty soon, I would imagine. As far as the overall here for the teams, I mean, look, this is not going to be the Lakers team that we know. So the numbers that I have here are probably worse. They're probably better than what we're going to see here in this game on Tuesday night. Defensive rebounding should continue to be a problem. I mean, maybe Christian Koloko has some stuff that I don't know about that will help him a lot in these defensive rebounds to limit the Clips from getting, and basically limit Zoo from getting everything that he wants in this game, which I think it'll be a problem. He's had in the top 5 in terms of offensive rebound percentage for himself. And as a result, this team has been 8th in the last 5 games, 12th in the last 10 games in terms of offensive rebound percentage, and putting those back up for second chance points. And that's going to be where they live. That's going to be where they dominate. This Lakers team is in the paint. They are 4th in limiting point paints. The Lakers are depending a ton on those. Maybe we'll see a few more threes. Gabe Vincent's healthy in this game. I still don't really like it, to be honest. It's going to be still a lot of Rui, LeBron going to the bucket, Austin Reeves trying to go to the bucket and maybe getting some spot ups, but I just don't like it here for the Lakers overall with the way that they're going to need to score against a team that is really good at limiting stuff in the paint. And if you can't hit open like corner threes against them, which has been a problem, now Max Christie, who was their best corner 3 shooter, is gone. I don't know how the Lakers are going to keep up outside of LeBron just doing everything he can, probably scoring 30 in this game, but not being able to pull out the win.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen it before with the Lakers, even when they get absolutely waxed when they're shorthanded. LeBron does what he can before he sits down, and the reporting at least indicates he is going to stay put. He's not going to accept a trade to your Warriors or whatever to get away from Luka. He's gonna, at least these next few games, it seems like, really show what he can do to get lay down the carpet for Luka. So I like where you're at. I mean, you can get the same odds basically with a Zubac double-double, and you don't pick the winner just because the Lakers have been so up and down. But I have a hard time seeing how they're going to win this game shorthanded. So, yeah, I mean, add the Zoo double-double, and you're over plus 200 with the Clippers win here, as we both like Zubac and props. So, but yeah, getting to my other side here, it is the Celtics plus 2, getting 2 at Cleveland. You can get like plus 150 on them to just flip this line and be like, nah, wrong team favored. Because, I mean, the key here is teams tipping their hand, nobody on the injury report for the Boston Celtics. I don't think that's happened all season. Like, I don't think you've had one, and definitely not in a big game like this where Al Horford isn't even questionable. Like, Pritchard missed the last game. He's coming back. So they got the whole starting 5, and they are ready to form like Voltron. They're ready to start hitting their championship stride, it would seem, after they got everybody back except Pritchard again last game, and they got off to a slow start because they're like, wow, we haven't really played together in a long time. But then in the second half, just an absurd turnaround, 165 offensive rating, scored 76. The last 3 in general, they have the highest assist rate in the league. That is obviously key for the Celtics because it means they're hitting their good looks that they generate. As Joe Maz will remind reporters, like, they are generating good shots no matter whether they win or lose. They're in the top percentile there, so just don't at him with that stuff. And I mean, with Cleveland, with Okoro and Dean Wade out, that's at least going to hurt their perimeter defense a little bit. But this is basically like 2 teams that thrive in the same ways, right? So it's going to come down to like who lapses a little bit in terms of 3-point defense. If you look at, trying to predict the variance that is these high volume 3-point shooting teams, well, you see more vulnerabilities for the Cleveland defense for sure. I mean, they allow 38% at home. They allowed about 38% throughout January from 3. Boston been up and down, but a lot of that is like sleepy spots. Is like them not being totally, again, like tipping their hand that like, we're going out for this win. We are looking to make a statement against the team with the top record, maybe try to climb back to that number 1 spot. And they're better on the road defensively, especially, right? 3rd in points allowed, number 1 in assists allowed on the road in January. And that's what we're looking at, is teams that are not going to win unless they get assisted 3-pointers when they're going up against each other. That is like that's the way to handicap this game, is like who's going to be able to move the ball, get those above the break looks that they want, and then probably knock them down because they score at such a high rate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, nothing there. No notes. Honestly, I think we just both look at Boston +2 and just go like, look. I mean, look, they need to put it together, but this is one of those moments in time, for sure, where it's just like, yeah, there's they're going for it. Like you said, form like Voltron is a hilarious way of thinking about it. And now I'm really just trying to think about where I would be placing all of the different players on the Celtics within Voltron based on their tools, which would be a fun Twitter post. But for the purpose of this video, I like that. And I'm going to go finish close out here with Miami and Chicago. This might be a little scary because of Miami, but you've got Chicago. This is two sort of opposing factors coming together, which is Miami's slow pace and Chicago's fast pace. But I'm still going over 227.5 in this one, which hasn't really moved. This is basically where it opened. What I'm looking at here, and there, shout out a couple of these tools that I found to help us really break down how do teams play against other teams like this one. So how do the Heat play against other fast-paced teams like the Bulls, who want to get out in transition and just want to go before there's even 7 seconds left in the shot clock? And when they play the teams that are in the top 10 pace in the league, they've got 16 games against those teams, and they've gone over in 11 of 16 games, averaging about 229.5 in those situations. So that gets us slightly over this number here. And I do think that's going to be the case, that Chicago is going to speed them up a ton, and they won't be able to stop them once they do, essentially. They are second in pace, the Chicago. They're second in free throw attempt rate as well in the last 10, and they've actually been in the top 10 of that in the last 25 games of the season in terms of free throw attempt rate. Miami's 29th in limiting free throws at the moment. And I mean, Khalil Ware is a big part of that. We've seen him go down, be a big part of them sending others to the free throw line, as he does tend to foul at the rim, has been really the rim protector a bit more than Bam in the drop defense sort of style for Miami in those situations. And it's allowed Bam to play almost like a high zone in the middle of the floor at times, which is why also Khalil Ware has been a little bit better for boards. Bam's actually been a lot better for assists and things of that nature. And I think that'll continue to be the case. And Bam's actually been scoring off of this stuff as well. His points per game been up a little bit over the last couple. And we know that Chicago is going to struggle to limit anything that anybody wants to do in isolation. One-on-one without another defender coming, they're in trouble. And Chicago's been good limiting the catch and shoot. They're in the, I believe they have the best opponent field goal percentage off of catch and shoot shots. So need to keep that in mind. It's a little bit of luck, but there's also so many field goals going up against Chicago that it really doesn't matter, right? They have, they're in the bottom 3 in terms of opponent field goal attempts per game, which completely makes sense. I'm surprised it's not more, except for teams are making their shots against Chicago because they have a bottom 10 effective field goal percentage. So there's no reason for them to need to take more shots. So they probably would be first in terms of most field goal attempts against them, except for so many of them are going in. There's no offensive rebounds or second chance points that are really needed against Chicago, which is how I've broken that down. And above the break threes is kind of it's going to be a big deal in this one. If Miami can't defend it, which they've struggled with at times as well, in terms of opponents above the break field goal percentage, they're in the bottom 5, actually, in the last 10 games, limiting above the break threes. We know we're going to get plenty of that from Kobe White. Josh Giddey has upped his 3-point percentage, by the way, and upped his 3-point volume, and is not that bad. He's basically averaging 2.5 threes per game out of 7.5 attempts over the course of the last 5 games, where we missed most of Zach LaVine, who is, as we know, now in Sacramento. So I think that the speed will maintain. Zach LaVine was actually someone who slowed the pace down a little bit and was a lot better in the half court. They don't have that now, and I think they know that, and they have to keep it moving with guys like Dosunmu and Giddey in this one. I think that'll be the case here against a Miami team that should be able to score against them as well.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 now with Giddey and Lonzo, right? As like somebody just push it and get us going. I love Kobe White in this spot, as you mentioned. It's not your older brother's Heat, that's for sure. And so I would not be as scared about it. I mean, you got to lean towards the Heat as the side here, though, right?
Yeah.
At a flat 3, which it actually has moved there instead of the total,